Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. These Suntup release weeks are something, are they not? One of my favorite things about a new Suntup book is that I get to talk to a handful of new people who make these editions possible. Today I'm talking to the author of the introduction for Suntup's edition of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Sophie Mackintosh is an accomplished writer, and this book had a very profound effect on her. And we talk about that. We talk about the journey that her life has taken since she's read the book, how it's impacted her writing as an author. And her own book, The Water Cure from 2018, has been compared by critics and literary types, you know those types, to Margaret Atwood's style in The Handmaid's Tale, which is a high compliment because The Handmaid's Tale is a visionary work and beautifully written and a masterpiece of literature. So, without further ado, I introduce you to Sophie Mackintosh. She was smart, charming, brilliant, and I was a stuttering fool, but please ignore that part. I'm going to edit this heavily so my idiocy doesn't come across, and you could just focus on Sophie and hear what she has to say. So stick around, enjoy, and I'll see you on the flip side if you stay frosty.
For once, I'm not talking to myself. It's time to go beyond the book and get over your shelf.
So, welcome. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. You said you just did a recent move, and I know how traumatic that could be. So thank you for taking the time during this release week. I'm jazzed about talking about Handmaid's Tale. I feel like I'm very late to the conversation, but I'm happy to be here and happy to be talking to you. So let's just start out with when did you first read Handmaid's Tale?
So I actually am kind of envious that you've got the chance to kind of read it for the first time because I think like the first time I read it, it was just such an amazing experience for me. And I think I was young. I think I was maybe like 12, 13. I don't know. It kind of yeah, I remember like I was at my parents' friend's house, and I think we were staying there for a few days, and they had a fantastic bookshelf. And my parents are like not particularly big readers, so I was kind of really excited by the books. And then I think the cover really drew me in. It was like very evocative with, you know, the costume and stuff, and the kind of the classic, the red gowns and stuff, and the bonnets. And I just thought it was so interesting, and I hadn't really encountered anything like that before. So yeah, like kind of blew my mind, my 12-year-old, 13-year-old mind. And yeah, it's just very, I just remember thinking, you know, it did something so different to what I had experienced before. It was, you know, so real, but also so kind of imaginative. And I guess it kind of, yeah, it was just a very kind of transformative book for me, and was something that made me think, you know, about what fiction can actually do, and, you know, what kind of science fiction could mean, I guess.
So you said your parents weren't big readers, huh?
No, not really.
Really? So what was that like growing up? My parents weren't big readers either, but I've loved books. How did that feel growing up in a house where you were the reader, but your parents really weren't?
I think I just loved the library. Like my parents were very encouraging of me reading, even though they weren't kind of big readers themselves. But I think, you know, they were kind of happy that I liked to do it. And yeah, I go to the library all the time. And I think it was good because you could kind of get away with more, because I don't know, they were kind of maybe strict on what I might like watch on TV and things, but you know, a book is kind of very innocent. So,
Right.
you know, I love like horror books and stuff, and books that were probably like above my age range, like probably like The Handmaid's Tale. I'm not actually sure how they would have felt about me reading that at like 12. Yeah.
For me, when you said that, reading it at 12 and 13, it's such a vulnerable transitional time for children, you know, those early preteen, early teen years, all those insecurities, all that fear and doubt. And to read this book, wow, I could see the thumbprint that would make at such a vulnerable time. Yeah. And so what did you react to most when you read it? To me, that was chilling when Fred sees that one photo of her daughter.
Yeah, I think, you know, at that kind of age, you're kind of as a woman, you're kind of really beginning to have this awareness, I suppose, of what maybe your life is going to be like as a woman, and about thinking about these kind of ideas of women's rights. And I think I was innocent. I didn't really. I think the idea of like their credit cards have been cancelled and they're not allowed to do this, and it's a bit like I kind of haven't like maybe necessarily like internalized that. Yeah, I'm still kind of like quite young, and I'm like I can do whatever I like, and I'm hadn't really thought so much about those things, but I was definitely beginning to think about them because the world was sort of starting to impose itself on me. So in that way, yeah, definitely. I think it was just the realness of it that really got me.
Yeah, I think that to me was I think one of the most chilling parts of the book was the moment Fred is I always mess up with that name. It's like offered, off read, and of Fred. I think there's so much to her name that
I'm always like, Fred. I think it's in one of them, there's like a double F, and double F is like
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I had a question somewhere. But yes, so the most chilling part of the book to me was that when the government, those fingers of the government were circling all the people, and then they finally closed, and when she was denied all agency, the way her husband initially reacts, there's so much about that scene that yes, it just, and I can't imagine a 12-year-old girl would understand that nuance is clearly, but so how did you take on the introduction when you were asked to write the introduction for this book?
It was such a amazing thing to be able to write, because I've had this experience with this book, and it has been such an important book for me, and in a way it kind of started me on this like writing journey, and really helped like change the way I could think about what writing could do, and also like the approaches that could be taken. So it's like coming at it first from a point of just like massive love for the book from quite an early age, and then also like as I got older, a more increasing understanding of its importance in lots of other ways. It's kind of it's been a book that's been with me a really long time, so it's kind of quite daunting almost, because how do you do justice to it, and especially as a book that's kind of almost had like a bit of a, well, I guess like it's not like a renaissance, but with the TV show and stuff, and kind of reaching even more audiences. And well, sadly, the fact that the way our world is now means that it is kind of more relevant than ever, when you kind of hope it would be less relevant. So yeah, it was kind of like it felt like a big responsibility, but also very much like a labor of love almost, to be able to, I guess, say these things that I have felt about this book and thought about these books, thought about the book, and to kind of put them all together into a piece which hopefully does it justice.
Did you ever imagine when you first read the book as a young girl that you would ever get to a point where you're introducing Margaret Atwood?
No, never. I mean, that was like kind of surreal. I was just like, wow, I am writing an introduction for the Handmaid's Tale. This is great.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so I know when I asked Paul Suntup why you were selected for the introduction. So yes, Paul did share with me that your work has been compared to Margaret Atwood's work. How do you feel about that comparison? Does it feel like you're in her shadow? Does it feel like an honor? What do you think of those comparisons?
I mean, it's a huge honor. It's such an honor because I guess she started a kind of a whole, almost like a movement of writers, or maybe not so much movement, but just I suppose like paved the way to think about these things, and to write about these issues, and to just think very broadly about kind of what a world could look like. And so I think she's incredibly important, obviously, and it's absolutely amazing to kind of be compared to her. Again, it's the thing of I never in a million years thought that would kind of happen.
Yeah.
And again, I'd like to go back in time to my 12-year-old self.
Whenever a government starts to oppress anyone, it's it's not good. Like, even if you're not a member of that group. And I think what Margaret Atwood does brilliantly is bring us all along and get us to understand that this is a death of society. It's not just, it's like the women are in the crosshairs and receive the brunt of it, and a lot of it. But there are men that die too. There are men that don't like this life. There are whole societies that this is a death of all of us.
And as well, like, you know, there are women who also have a pretty good time. And it's like, you know, it's not a dystopia for everyone. That's the thing. It's kind of it shows kind of how much you know, a world where there is inequality and how it's bad for everyone. You know, how it's everyone. No one's really winning in this world except for kind of a select few. So that's really interesting too. It's kind of not as simplistic. It's kind of like, all the women are being oppressed and that's kind of the end of it. It's like,
right,
you know, in a world where there is oppression, like no one's really free.
Yeah, and I don't even when I see that thing, I can't help think of like the supervillains in crazy superhero movies that want to destroy the universe. Like, why? What? And this is the same thing. Who is benefiting from this system of government? But yeah. I love that books like this exist as a warning to that.
No, for sure. It is definitely a warning, but like also at the same time, this is something I love about it so much. It's like it's not it's still like an amazing kind of adventure and like incredibly gripping narrative. I think it's so important when a book can kind of teach us and, you know, warn us and show us, but at the same time it's not like preachy. It's kind of it's a really hard balance to strike, I think. But, you know, first and foremost, it's just an amazing story.
Yeah. Did you see the TV series?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I think it felt like really kind of similar to what I had imagined, I suppose, in my head. So yeah, it was kind of, and, you know, there's such a really strong visual language with the book. I mean, you know, like I mentioned, like the gowns and the bonnets and you know, the pictures on the sign of the shops and stuff, and so to see it kind of as you imagined it is like very powerful.
So was it translated well? Because I didn't see it. Does it take liberties?
I didn't watch the second series in the end, more because I don't watch so much TV. Don't think I had TV at the time, but yeah, like I remember the first one felt like really faithful to the book. I can't comment on these series, but yeah, the first series I thought was terrific.
Did you read the sequel, The Testaments?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was really interesting. Again, it's kind of I love that kind of comfort of almost of like returning to a world that is like quite important to you and to see how things have panned out. Yeah, I thought it was handled really well. And again, it was the kind of all the buzz around it as well. I think, you know, everyone being so excited, it was like a massive event, and everyone kind of was excited to get back into this world and see how things had panned out, I guess. I think as readers, we kind of, I always remember like getting to the end and, you know, thinking about the fact that it's kind of presented as like the historical transcript, as kind of a document. So I was like, but what happened after? You know, I kind of just wanted to know so much. It just felt, yeah, so real. And I guess we have ideas in our head of what we thought was going to happen or how we thought it would play out. So it was interesting to see that.
Is it a diary type of found document?
No, so it follows, it doesn't just follow one character either, it follows several, so you kind of, it kind of get different perspectives too, which is really interesting.
Getting back to your book, The Water Cure, and to get a quote from Margaret Atwood that said it's a gripping, sinister fable. How did that feel? How did that feel to get that quote? I guess I'm fanboying. I don't know.
I think I remember like someone texted me and they were like, "Do you see Margaret Atwood just tweeted about your book?" And I was like, "No, I did not see this." I am going to check. And I kind of, yeah, it was really surreal. I was like, she's read my book. That is that's big, and has read it and has, you know, enjoyed it. So that was really amazing. That was again a kind of once in a lifetime writer thing, like, you know, kind of dream event. I was really happy.
Have you met her?
No, I haven't.
I guess, you know.
I don't know what I even say. I'd be like, "Hi, love your wig."
So I understand. I find that really awesome that you still feel that way. I mean, you're an accomplished writer yourself, and you wrote her introduction, and then you still feel sort of awestruck.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that would ever leave me. Yeah, I don't know. I think even now, you know, I've published 2 books and I've got another one coming out, and I'm still a bit like, ooh, like, still feel kind of a newbie, and I guess I feel like so much gratitude towards her.
So what's your new book? When's that coming out?
My new book is coming out next year, 2023, which it feels far away, but it feels close now. So yeah, that'll be out then.
Do you want to tell us about what's it about? What do you can plug it.
Yeah. I've taken some. It's actually like it's not dystopian or even kind of remotely dystopian. It's kind of historical. It was based on like a true historical event, and I think I've taken some liberties. I kind of think of it as like historical speculation, because, you know, it's based on a true event, but I've really gone with, you know, run with my imagination on it. And yeah, it's about a kind of a mass poisoning event in a French village, and it's a really really great story. I remember like hearing about the story and thinking like, someone needs to write a book about this, and then just kept thinking about it, and then was like, I could write it. I could write a book about it. But yeah, especially, I guess I started writing it just before the pandemic, and so I was writing it during the pandemic, and I didn't get to do kind of a lot of the research I wanted to do. Like, I was going to go to France and stuff, but it made me think, you know, we're kind of locked away, and a lot of the book is about kind of how we deal with like collective trauma, because it's kind of set just after the Second World War, and what do we feel like when reality is suddenly like very different. So kind of in a weird way, it felt like a good time to be writing it.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from the chatter from writers and authors and artists about how the pandemic, how much we are global citizens, and how, you know, I hear about lockdowns in Australia, I hear about protests in France, I hear about all the stuff going on in my own country, and we're all sort of sharing a trauma right now, and it has to impact artists as you process those things. And so you found a lot of that in your new writing. Did that tone come in there? Did that feeling of claustrophobia?
I think so, for sure. I mean, it wasn't like something I even kind of consciously tried to put in, but I think that was how I was writing it. I was like in my house in this very strange time. And you know, I know a lot of people I knew could find it really hard to write, and I did as well at points, but at the same time I was like, well, writing is kind of how I process things. It's the thing that I have here for me now, and I'd kind of planned to take the year to write a book anyway, so I was like, well, I'm not going anywhere. So, you know, I'm literally just in my house. I think like the uncertainty of stuff as well, I don't know, it's just interesting as well how, you know, different countries have experienced it differently. And in the UK, we've had such high cases for a really long time. I've had COVID. Actually, my housemate has COVID right now.
Oh.
So it's kind of, you know, I don't know anyone really who hasn't had it at this point, and so it's kind of yeah, it's strange, because it's like this. It feels kind of normal, but it's like absolutely not normal.
No, and I think especially now, I think so many people I know have had it. It's been like a brush fire. Thankfully, not many people I know have had any serious issues, but it's you still feel touched by something. I mean, it's like it's scary. Did you see the art or any of the materials for the book?
No, I haven't seen it yet. So I'm really excited to see it, because I haven't seen the illustrations.
I could send them to you. They're going to be revealed on Thursday anyway. Yeah. But I, you know, I'm going to talk to the artist tomorrow and get his insight into it. But I think he did a phenomenal job. It's when I wasn't even done reading the book, and I was looking at the photos, which is a bad idea, because a lot of times the artist will illustrate a key moment in the book. So you get a spoiler, but I think he did an insanely awesome job. I haven't seen the materials of it, but I could send that to you. And what do you think it means for this book to get a limited fine press treatment?
I think it's like, you know, it kind of makes perfect sense, because it's a book that's so important, and it's a book that's so rich, and it's like, you know, it's a massive honor to, I think, have, you know, the book turn into such a beautiful object. And like, you know, it was particularly exciting for me to write the introduction to a book that's not just a book, but, you know, like an edition that is also a work of art, basically.
Right.
And really special. Yeah, I love the idea that, you know, it's not just something you read, it can be a whole tactile experience. It's something which really comes alive in a different way to the experience of just reading it, but also the experience of, you know, having it adapted to film or TV. So yeah, it's like, it's almost quite like emotional to think of a new life of the book as a kind of object of art, really.
Yeah, to me, it sends the message about the book being worthy. You know, it's worthy of this sort of archival, acid-free paper, the book that will endure for generations, because it should. And I'm just surprised it hasn't been done before. It's a beautifully written book. I don't think we've talked about that, but what Margaret Atwood does with the language of the book is so powerful. So many passages where she just wrestles with language, and I know this is through the character of Fred, but the way she talks about what a chair means, and it used to mean a person, and it used to mean that, like, and all these instances where it's sort of like language is rolled over in her brain. I think it heightens it. It's really adds to the whole journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So do you know what Fred's real name is?
I think in the TV show they said it was June, but I actually can't remember if that was revealed in the book.
Okay, because I was talking to Jan Castro. She wrote the afterword, and she casually mentioned in our interview that her name is June. And so I finished the book waiting for that to be revealed, and it never was. And then I did a Google search, and they say her name's never revealed in the book. So I emailed Jan Castro, and she said it's right there at the end of chapter 1. All the women are named. And so I looked back, and it's never assigned to an individual, but it makes sense if the show does, because they're playing it out for you. But so anyway, it wasn't a spoiler. So if anybody's watching and they're worried about spoilers, that's right there. So but I missed it, so I didn't see it.
I missed it too.
Yeah. She was so casual about it. She's just like, oh yeah, it's right at the end of chapter 1. Like, you look back, here's the book I read, and it's just that they're laying in the center, and they're sharing their real names with each other, whispering it.
So good.
Oh, it is just, yeah, this is a book definitely worth reading, rereading, and I can imagine, now that I've finished it, the layers that are still waiting for me upon rereading, because there's just so much to unpack from it. But
one of those books that kind of means, you know, every time you read it, it means maybe something slightly different, or kind of, you know, something else you appreciate or reveal or kind of realize. I think, yeah.
How has it changed for you over the years?
I think, like, as I get older, and I kind of, obviously, like, having more awareness than I did at 12 of kind of, you know, what it's like to be a woman. And I think now, as I get older, last time I read it, you know, thinking about the kind of the reproductive aspect and children, and kind of like how awful to be, like, you know, taken away from your child, and that kind of like powerlessness. And then obviously, you know, you have things like the abortion law in Texas, which feels like, you know, it's incredibly regressive, and, you know, something that is such a massive step backwards, and all these things, which is like, oh, we're not past these things yet. So it's kind of, yeah, in a personal way, but also like a larger way.
You know, the first thing I thought of when I was reading this was what's happening in Afghanistan, and how there was that young female activist, her name eludes me. She was shot in the head for wanting an education.
Mm. Yeah.
And she became a national spokesperson, and how for a while, and nobody is, I wouldn't say anybody could find any success in Afghanistan for women, but now it's sort of thrown right back into it. And it's scary because as I was reading, I'm like, this can never happen in the US. It can never happen. It can never happen. But I know there are probably people that said the same thing every time something like this happens. And I think that's the most foolish idea to have, is that this can never happen.
Mm. No, definitely. It can always happen. It's terrifying. But
Yeah. But yeah, again, I keep getting drawn back to the book because I think of how it wasn't such a black and white ham-fisted book with an agenda. It was very it was brilliant, because Fred really tries to make her place in this world, that, and she's just like trying her best to make a go of it, you know. And I don't know, I think that is probably the most chilling aspect of the book. It wasn't like just this full-on rebellion. Even Moira, who's like this take no prisoners sort of in your face person, is cowed.
Yeah,
pretty much.
no, totally.
Anyway, so I appreciate you taking the time today to talk. I absolutely love this book, and I'm flattered that you had the time to chat with us, because there's a whole army of people that are cheering this book on, and I know they're anxious for your take on it too. So I appreciate it, and I wish you all the best with your move and with your COVID struggles. Hopefully your husband's not doing too bad.
Just some coughing.
Yeah.
Coughing. Yeah, try to just avoid it, but we'll see.
Did
Every time I kind of get a little tickle on my chest, I'm like, ooh.
Oh no.
But
Oh,
I have
no.
had it. I have had it, so I'm hoping that might kind of help. But I've been boosted, so yeah.
Yeah. So
London has been a bit of kind of a COVID hotspot for a few weeks now.
Right. No, I think it's rising everywhere. I think right now I'm in Chicago, and they're having struggles with the public school system, getting kids back to classes, and the teachers, because it's spiking everywhere. So we'll stay healthy. Congratulations on working with this. I look forward to reading The Water Cure, because that's one thing I do love, is discovering new authors, new voices, and expanding my lizard brain into understanding other experiences. So I appreciate it so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for chatting to me. It's great to chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.